Your personal brand is everything, especially if you're an employee, but also if you're an entrepreneur. Let's first talk about the employee scenario. So say you are a W-2 employee or you're a contractor and you rely on your employer for your income and for your recognition. What I see in this case is a lot of people go to different events, they brand themselves, let's say on LinkedIn or other areas, and they're closely tied into the brand of their company, but they don't have an identity themselves. They're not closely building those connections and that brand themselves. And this can look a whole different host of ways. It might be through your professional network, or it might be through a lot of other areas. For example, if you have a hobby or another interest. Me, I'm a musician, but I'm also in the technology world. I've worked at companies like Meta, Facebook, Microsoft, at IBM, at Red Hat. And so I built my identity early on in my career through those companies. When I was at Red Hat, I was closely associated with Red Hat. And it was great when I spent time there and there was an interesting identity in a community. But what I quickly realized is I needed to build my own identity and my own brand outside of that. And that's what's really important for you all as well. So I can speak to people who are in the tech industry, but there's all these other industries as well. And it goes beyond just networking. That's why I think in this year, in this modern era, you need to have some type of social media. Now we can debate whether social media is good or bad, but the reality is if you want to be independently successful, you need to have some type of social media presence. And you could use that to talk about your professional interests and things that you know. So if you're an expert on a certain type of, let's say in the medical field or sports science, or you have a hobby that you're super interested in, if you're a musician or if you're a car mechanic or anything, whatever it is that you're interested in, you should have multiple channels of content that you can create on something that you're already an expert in. Now, if you're not an expert content creator, that's a skill that you have to develop. But the reason it's so important is because it's an essential skill of communication, demonstrating a message and providing value and an offer for somebody to come into your world, purchase a service from you or a product from you, or simply just to share your knowledge and passion. When you build a fan base, when you build a community, it's super powerful and it gives you power away from an employer so that you're not just reliant on them. It builds your network beyond just your professional networking in LinkedIn. You can use LinkedIn, that's fine, and you can build a professional network there. But I think of that as more of the corporate world, and it's good for sales leads, sales gen, and kind of the traditional corporate world. But if you also want to branch out beyond that, you should definitely have a YouTube channel. Like YouTube is the long form platform of choice and it's here to stay and it's going to be here for a long time. It also has the better payouts and you can also use basically the content that you create as a funnel to get other people interested in other products and services that you offer. Over time, what you're gonna do is you're gonna develop a brand, a reputation. Now, you can do this online, and I think of it, there's a strategy of reaching people you don't know or would never really meet through the online mechanism that you have through social media. YouTube's the primary one I would focus on, and then there's also Instagram and TikTok. It depends on your demographics and what you're going. Each content form is gonna be a little bit different, but for long form, I would definitely look at YouTube. And what you're doing is you're building a brand and you're building an identity. You don't even have to start that out where you're gonna offer a product or service. But if you think about and you curate through something that you're passionate about, over time, you can create some type of offering to people that's a value exchange. And people who like you and want to engage with your personality and your style and what you're offering, they'll be glad to support you and you build trust. It's the great scalable way to build trust in a way that you never could in real life. So if I go out to an individual event, I'm meeting people one-on-one, and it's much harder to build that type of reputation through just the one-on-one interactions. Now, you can't replace in person, but what you can do with social media is you have scale, and at any time of the day or night when somebody wants to look at one of your videos, it's online and there forever, and they can view it. And while you're sleeping, you can be building a reputation with people online, so it's super powerful. In addition to that though, I think a lot of people who are content creators online, they get too focused of being just online. And I think you really should also have that in-person aspect. So it is still invaluable to go to social networking events, to meet people in person. So based on the city that you're located in, and I would really think about this strongly, are you located in the right city that's going to be optimal for your personal brand? Because you can do a lot online from anywhere, but I really do think that still, if you're going to build those deeper bonds, you're going to have an in-person connection, and you want to do business opportunities, ventures, and other things, in person is going to be great for that. So you can build your community online and your base, and then have events to go through that tie in closely to your interest and align. It's super valuable. And if you can find time to do that in addition to having a job, you can start out slowly. If you can do it either before you go to work or after you go to work, you can build out over time that content and that brand, and people go to you as an expert. So what it does is, we've seen these economic times that are so uncertain, even people who have good paying white collar jobs, you just can't rely on that anymore. There's no security from a employer. They don't have the loyalty. Most states are at will employment, which is, good in some cases and really bad in other cases, where you can just come and leave as you want, but the employer can do that to you as well. Literally, you could be there for 10 years and tomorrow they could just say, we're letting you go. And that's just how it is. Or they can change a policy. They can say you have to return to office and you now have to locate across the country, or do something that's just totally unreasonable, and it basically breaks the original agreement that you have. So if you can build your own brand over time, you build power. So that, for example, I know nomads who want to travel and be all over the place. They can do that remotely. They have their brand that travels with them, their digital identity, and it's so powerful because you have that for life. And eventually we'll get into it more advanced, where you build out these social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is for your use case, X, Twitter. Then what you eventually need to do is you need to get your sales funnel. So you get people's personal contacts. Email is still king if you have their personal contact, or even their phone numbers for text message, depending on what you're doing. But you do eventually want to have that individual contact with the person so that you can closely connect. Let's say your YouTube channel gets banned. Let's say something goes down, your Instagram gets blocked or hacked or compromised. You need a way to own the data so that you have that connection. And that still does mean having a web face for your own personal brand. So you want to have a web page for it, and you want to make your presence known over multiple social media accounts, on a web page and other areas, but you want that to be AI optimized, because we know people now are searching through AI. They're using ChatGPT, they're using Gemini, they're using Grok, all of those AI search tools to find your information. And you will find, if you're using the big platforms and you're telling your story in little snippets through images and through videos, that the AI will start to collect that, and it will build this knowledge of you and what you're portraying based on what you tell it. In the early stages, it's just you giving information to the internet out there, and that's going to be digested, and that's what the world's going to know about you. Over time, you're going to have people to start conversating and talk about you, and that will also build to the noise and the information about your brand and your reputation. So when you first start, you really want to dominate that narrative so you can override whatever might be out there or lingering. You're building the information that when you search for an AI through a large language model search, you're going to have the information about you that you want. Or if they're searching for a product or service or whatever it might be, that's going to come up under your name. The old search engine optimization platform and way of doing it is really changing. So you need to think of an AI first search. But what this all comes down to, again, is your personal brand. So I focused on the employee because I think that's one area that's often overlooked. I think entrepreneurs get this more clearly. It's kind of it comes along with the territory, but entrepreneurs often do forget about this in a way because they get so focused and deep on their business, and they might be a good technical founder, but they forget about the outreach to the public and building that brand. And so if you have money for it, or if you can find people, getting a content marketing team is really great to help you. When you're first starting out, I don't think you need that at all. I think you should really just practice with a certain set of content and get your story right, get things rolling where you see some level of engagement. Once you have that, or if you just have the funds where it's not a big deal, then you can pay for people, but there's no point in polishing a turd, right? If you have something that is just like, it's not great content, you're not a good speaker, you're not a good communicator, then there's no point in like making it ultra 8K footage. Like, it's not gonna do anything for you. You need to get honed in on your communication skills. And that's what I think filming content like this and presenting it to your audience really helps you do. It really helps you get your message out there, and it helps you hone in on your communication skills. So for everyone out there, I really suggest that you go ahead and focus on your content strategy and your personal brand. So go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment and let me know what you think.